Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk with Carl E. Long. How's everybody doing today? Hope you're doing great. I've been away for a little bit. I've been kind of nursing a little cold. You can probably hear it in my voice a little bit, so I apologize in advance if I sneeze or cough. I'm on medicine here for a minute, but you know how that goes. Anyway, I'm normally one that can fight this stuff off really quickly, so we're down to the point where it's getting ready to go away, so that's good. So I hope you're doing well today. I am recording today on Mother's Day. God, this is a sad day for me, but you know, I think keeping myself busy always helps. And of course, I never forget my mom on this special day. So I hope everybody's having a wonderful Mother's Day here in 2025. So here we are at episode 36 of the podcast, guys. And there's been so much going on, and I wanted to get on here and do some things, but I couldn't because I was sneezing and coughing and whatever, and it just wasn't the right time to be filming or doing anything. So I just kind of took a little break on my voice and everything because this stuff is very taxing on one's personality, on one's being. God, just listening to it is hard as being a concerned American citizen. So today's podcast title is Stop Beating Up on Kamala Harris. Are you serious? That's the name of the podcast, but I'm going to talk about a whole lot of things, but that's going to be the centrist point on the podcast today. So it's just been a lot of Kamala hating going on, and we'll get to that soon. But here's the fact of the matter, guys, that what we're dealing with. Donald J. Trump is a bully. He is a bona fide bully. And let's face the facts that everybody is afraid to confront him. That's a fact. That is a fact. I mean, look at Congress. Congress has the power of the purse. They now have the House and the Senate, but they are not passing anything but stupid little bills because they are all following the direction of the president. They're afraid to bump him by any means. They're not doing any work. All these executive orders coming out, why not go through the correct way? If these are so important to you, get them approved in Congress. This is how I'm telling you that everybody is a patsy for Donald Trump. All of the men, I'm going to put the women in there, have lost their kahunas. Are y'all afraid of this guy? You know, and I got a whiff of what it's really like because News Nation, God knows, News Nation, I thought that was a station that I wanted to listen to, but I'm so disappointed in Chris Cuomo and his stand on where he thinks that he is very centrist and he thinks that Donald Trump should be given the same. No, he shouldn't, Chris. And you can normalize him all you want to. You and Stephen A. Smith, a little town hall that you had over there, it wasn't good. And I don't agree with anything that you say, hardly anything anymore, Chris Cuomo. So you're dead to us. You really are. Because we used to champion behind you on CNN, but now I don't know who you are. I don't know who you are. So I guess I'll kick it off by playing a little bit of that News Nation debacle just to get started and let you know why I'm saying that Trump is a bully. I want you to notice how he calls in. Nobody gets a chance to talk. And pretty much, if that's the way that he is, can you imagine what it's like being in his cabinet or anything else? He sits there sometimes like a mouse, but it's all at the pleasure of the president. It's always at the pleasure of the president. These people are scared of Trump. Let's just listen to a little bit of this News Nation nonsense. Here we go.
I think he hung up on you.
Good. Is that it? That's the interview. Mr. President, can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So, a series of rough polls this week, and I'm wondering how you process that. Does it hurt your feelings when you see numbers come in that are not what you'd like them to be?
Well, first of all, they're fake polls. And if you take a look at the polls, they interviewed more, and for the most part, they interviewed more Democrats than they did Republicans, which is ridiculous and unfair. And Democrats aren't voting for Trump. And you look at them, John McLaughlin, who's the most respected pollster, said I'm at 50, 55, and maybe even higher than that. And he said that these polls are largely fake. When you look at the New York Times, when you look at the Washington Post, ABC, they predicted I was going to lose Wisconsin by 17 points, and I ended up winning Wisconsin. They predicted I was going to lose the election, and I ended up winning the election. They're fake polls, number one. And I think it's a very important thing to know that and to understand it. And because polls are no different than fake writers or journalism, and it's not a pretty thing when you watch. So when you say, am I bothered by it? If I was, I'd be really helped by the fact that in the election, we won in a landslide.
I had to stop him right there. Okay, so this is why I say Trump is a bully. He's devoid of any truth. If it's not his truth, it is not the truth. The entire journalistic world is fake. All the polls are fake. He refuses to believe that the American people, they're doing polls. Polls is what got you in office, Donald Trump. They're good for you when you want them to be good, but when they're bad, they're fake. I'm so sick of this guy. I'm just totally sick of whatever he does. And then you see Chris Cuomo there. He's going to sit there, not going to fact check him, just going to let him roll on. This is what I call when I say normalization, when the media sits there dumbfounded and not come back with, well, that's a legitimate poll or something. No, he's going to let him go on and just railroad, and they're sitting there. And look at Stephen A. Smith. Those of you can't see, I have a photo. I paused the video. He's just slumped over like he's in his element. And you know what? Who cares what you think, Stephen A. Smith? I have nothing else to say about you. I'll listen to a little bit more of this, but I can't take too much more of this.
We won the popular vote. We won the swing states. We won the districts, 2,750 to about 505. And the election took place just a short while ago, November 5th. I think it was
what's different now,
very
Mr.
big
President,
day for the country.
What's different
Yes.
now is the tariffs, and that's what's driving your numbers down. That some people are panicking because the stock market is so up and down, in and out. Would you agree that that has been a perception problem, the tariffs?
Yeah, but I'm an honest guy, and we have to save the country. We were losing $5 billion a day with this man that we had as a president, the auto pen president. Nobody even knows who the president was. We're losing, think of it, we're losing $5 billion a day, and a big chunk of it was from China. Now China is sending its boats back. The boats are not being unloaded because they have a 145% tariff, which is, a record-setting type tariff, and they can't sell their product here. And because of that, think of it, if you...
Okay, I can't, guys. I can't put you guys through listen to Donald Trump talk all the way down, but I want to get a little bit of Chris Cuomo in here and see what he's saying.
And especially in business. Now, with the cars, I'm getting a 25% tariff for the people. We're taking in billions and billions of dollars, but they're hurt because they can't switch over 100% of the content of the car within a very short period of time. So they came to see me. I understood their problem, and I gave them a period of a year where I brought it down, and then another year. So I gave them a short period, 2 years, where they have to be switched over 100%, where every single part in the car is made in the USA. Now, if I didn't do that, it would have been very, very tough for them. And so what I am is flexible. And if I didn't do that, it would be very tough for these companies. And these companies, it's a transition period, Chris. And transition's an important word because as you do things, you'll say, well, it's like being on the battlefield. You're on the battlefield. Sometimes you're going to move to the left flank, but then you end up moving to the right flank. And it's very much like that in business. And frankly, it's very much like that in life. But we're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars. And if you look at China now, they're not, look, we lost $1 trillion on trade with this Biden. China was just taking us out to lunch. There's never been anything like it, the way we were ripped off. We were ripped off by China, but we were ripped off by everybody, but really by China. They were the king of ripping off the United States. Now they're not doing any business here because I don't want them to do business. So I set a high tariff. I don't want them to do business. Now, will we make a deal? There's a very good chance we're going to make a deal, but we're going to make it on our terms.
Okay. Mr. President,
it's got to be fair.
Mr. President, in the upcoming budget negotiations, another point of uncertainty is what happens to entitlements. whether or not waste, fraud, and abuse. I think everybody's in favor of seeing.
Okay, that's enough of that. So I wanted you just to hear how Donald Trump just calls in, guys. He bullies his way in to everything. He bullies his way in. He tells lies consistently. He uses all kinds of numbers, billions and billions. None of that is fact-based. He just comes up with crap. And everybody has to do what Donald Trump says. This man is a bully. He's a bully. Congress is passing nothing because they're afraid to step on him. They're afraid of retaliation. We heard Lisa Murkowski from Alaska say that she's afraid of retribution from this whole deal. So everybody's afraid of this guy, except for Kamala Harris. Except for Kamala Harris. I mean, we have sat there and listened to him talk about tariffs and how kids, they not have to get like $10. They'll only be able to get like 2 or 3. First of all, who gets $10, Donald Trump? He's so far removed from the American people. And all of you that are thinking you're going to give him time to do his thing, he's going to make things better, you're being duped. You're being duped. And I wish everybody would take a pause and start thinking for yourself. This man does not care about anybody. If you listen to everything he just said right there, if I were to count the I, how many times has he said I? This man cares nothing about the American people. Donald Trump wants to be a mark in history. He wants to win the Nobel Peace. He wants people to adore him. He wants all of that stuff. This man is the biggest narcissist in the world. And I don't know what else to tell you. Y'all can think he's brilliant and all that, you know. And I told you before, if he does something magnificent, selfless, and it's something that's great I'll be the first one to say, now that was great, Donald Trump. But I doubt that's going to ever come. I don't. So you ask the question, why don't able-minded people speak up? And I'm not talking about Democrats, because we're yelling till we can't yell anymore. I mean, why won't they speak up? I know they're afraid, but is there going to be a point where it's going to be just way too much that you're going to say something? Or you're going to let this guy keep going on? I mean, he is transferring this whole aura of how to govern to everywhere. Like in Texas, we're in a mess. We've got Greg Abbott. There was a Senate meeting or House meeting in Texas where an Hispanic senator was trying to talk to one of the white senators to say, he was saying he wants to take DEI back to a time when everything was equal. When was that? Tell me what time that was when everything was fair and equal. When was that? You're going to take us back. When was that? Because Texas is 62% of people of color, and we are being railroaded in the state of Texas with all kinds of crap because of white men who feel like they're the go all and do all. And you know what else that just burns me up? And guys, and y'all can tell I'm on a rant today. Because I hadn't talked in a while. One thing that bothers me when I look at these newscasts and the cabinets and you see all these white men just standing around. So basically, nobody else knows how to do anything. It's just white men. You're the only ones that know how to run this country. That's what they're telling us. And that's what they want us to believe. And we can't fall for it. We cannot fall for it. So this has been a crazy week. And you know what? And we're opening up the floodgates of hell by allowing these people to run our country. We are. We have opened up the floodgates of hell. And as much as God has allowed this and why, you know, I know that there's always a reason, but this is getting really crazy. This is getting really crazy. I mean, something as stupid as this. There was Texas Governor Greg Abbott issued a full pardon Thursday. I don't know what Thursday that was. That was a while. For a former U.S. Army sergeant convicted of murder for fatally shooting an armed demonstrator in 2020 during a nationwide protest against police violence and racial injustice. Abbott announced the pardon shortly after the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles announced the unanimous recommendation that Daniel Perry be pardoned and have his firearms restored. Perry has been in the state prison on a 25-year sentence since 2023 conviction in the killing of Garrett Foster and was released shortly after the pardon, a prison spokesman said. Okay, so this man killed a man in the Black Lives Movement. And basically, Greg Abbott is saying he falls under, I didn't even know we had Stand Your Ground in Texas, that he falls under that jurisdiction. He's never shouldn't gotten in prison. I don't know much about this case. I got to go back and look at it. But he killed a man, and a jury of his peers found him guilty, and he stood or stayed in prison. This is getting crazy. This is what I'm saying. This is rogue crap. This is rogue crap. And then you have people like, Donald Trump calling Jasmine Crockett a low IQ person. Why is she low IQ, Donald Trump? Why is she low IQ? Because she's a threat. Anybody that's a threat to him, he really can't stand a black, strong female. No, he can't. And so he called her a black IQ person. She had some choice words for him. But I didn't put the tweet out here, but we can talk about that another time. So I'm just saying, it's time for y'all, and y'all are white America, to stand up and stop this madness. Y'all are the only ones that can stop it, because y'all are the ones that put him in there. Stop this madness and speak up against what Donald Trump is doing. This entire administration is doing to our country. It's time to speak up. And nobody else can do it. Not us black people, not us Latinos, not the Asians. It's got to be you. And I'm putting the onus on the white men. Stand up, grow some kahunas, and take control of this thing. This man is just a man. I don't know why everybody is so afraid of him. My God, this is crazy. So going back to the point of this podcast is, y'all need to put some love and put some respect back on Kamala's name. I want to remind everybody who Kamala Harris is. Kamala Harris, guys, ran a phenomenal campaign in a few months. She is the third person out of anybody to get the most votes of any election. That's Kamala Harris. Nobody, even Barack didn't get her numbers. And who is the only one who's not afraid to stand up to Donald Trump? Kamala Harris. He wouldn't even debate her again. That's how great she is. So let's just stop. Let's listen to my friend here that I found on TikTok, and let's listen to what he has to say, and we'll go from there. Here we go.
Y'all want to know what I'm really tired of? I'm tired of people downplaying what Kamala Harris accomplished in last year's presidential election. Kamala Harris received the third most votes in American history, just behind Joe Biden and Donald Trump, in just 3 months. Some politicians don't even come close to that number after a whole 2 years of campaigning. We can have this conversation about other Democrat prospects for 2028, whether it's Pete Buttigieg, Gavin Newsom, Wes Moore, the list goes on. But to sit here and act like Kamala Harris winning 75 million votes in 3 months is just no big deal is borderline blasphemy. Not even Obama got those type of numbers. Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, Senator of New York, and First Lady, and didn't even hit 70 million votes. Let that sink in. Over 3 decades of public service, and didn't even receive that after 2 years of campaigning. Kamala did it in 3 months. It's now come out that Joe Biden put a lot of handicaps on her, telling her, let there be no daylight between us. Waiting to the last second to drop out of the race to allow her to launch her campaign. And she accomplished what she accomplished in just 3 months. Was her campaign perfect? No. What campaign could be perfect with only 3 months to get what they got to get done? Campaigns go on for 2-3 years and have a bunch of problems. So all of this talk, acting as if she's no longer a major power player in the Democrat Party, needs to cease to exist. Because getting 75 million votes in 3 months is no easy feat.
He spoke it exactly how I would say it. 3 months. Do y'all forget? Has everybody forgotten what she did? And I'm going to keep saying it because I know that it's out there. She won this election. She really did. She really won this election. It's all kinds of crap out there that voter suppression. She won this election. You know, there's all kinds of crap out there, guys. There was interference by Russia. And there's proof, and there's people talking about it. But nobody wants to talk about that, so I'll go on. But I just want y'all to hear that. What happened with Kamala? Do y'all remember the interview that she did on Fox News? How Bret Baier tried to just like railroad her? This is a tough lady. Listen to this. Bret Baier tried to railroad her, but she stood her ground. And I am still behind Kamala. If she wants to run again, she should. And I will vote for her. Let's see.
President, thank you for the time.
Thank you. It's good to be with you, Brett.
You know, voters tell pollsters all over the country and here in Pennsylvania that immigration is one of the key issues that they're looking at this election, and specifically the influx of illegal immigrants from more than 150 countries. How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
do you,
now,
just a number. Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have an
it's a rough estimate of 6 million people have been released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question. I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And when you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the Chips and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the... Yes, ma'am.
May I finish responding, please?
But
you have to let me finish,
You
please.
had the White House and the House and the Senate,
I'm
and they
in the
didn't bring
middle
up
of
that.
Did y'all see how he railroaded her? I just want to see, because y'all have to go back and look. Everybody has to go back and look. Go back and look at how they did Kamala Harris. This lady is a fighter. She fought her way through all that bull crap, I want to say it, and still came out victorious to me. Who gets numbers like that? Kamala Harris worked her butt off, and I don't want to hear any more crap about what she did or didn't do. I really don't. So let me finish this out, and I got a part 2 for you.
Responding to the point you're raising, and I'd like to finish. Yes. Question. It is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one then, we have done a number of things, including to address our asylum system and put more resources, getting more judges, what we needed to do to tighten up penalties and increase penalties for illegal crossings, what we needed to do to deal with points of entry between border entry points. That's the work we did, and we worked on supporting what was a bipartisan effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, to actually strengthen the border. That border bill would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border, which is why I believe the Border Patrol agents supported the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States, which is a scourge affecting people of every background, every geographic location in our country, killing people. It would have allowed us to put more resources into prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, which I have done as the Attorney General, former Attorney General of a border state.
Madam Vice President, a couple of things.
Prosecuted trafficking of drugs, guns, and human beings. And Donald Trump, but let me just finish.
Six Democrats voted against that bill.
Learned about that bill and told them to kill it because he preferred to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And in this election, this is rightly a discussion that the American people want to have. And what they want are solutions, and they want a president of the United States who's not playing political games with the issue,
I hear you,
but actually is focused on fixing it.
Six Democrats voted against that bill. It would have allowed 1.8 million illegal immigrants into the country a year. A lot of conservatives had a problem with it. These are the six Democrats. But more importantly, back to the original premise, Jocelyn Nungary, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday, campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe
Brett,
those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. There's no question about that. There is no question about that. And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred. So that is true. It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure that no future harm would occur. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution, Brett.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will let...
All right, enough of that. So I just wanted y'all to remember Kamala was fighting for y'all, and we would have had a wonderful president in Kamala Harris. And I don't want y'all to forget that. Don't forget that. Everybody wants to blame the Democrats, blame Kamala. She did that. Now, if I were to give just one criticism, and it's not a criticism, it's a criticism on probably the campaign. They brought in David Plouffe and everybody, and they knew about groundwork and everything like that. And I think the groundwork actually worked because, as I keep saying, I think the election was stolen. Okay, we won't talk about that because, you can't say stolen around here because, you sound like Donald Trump. But anyway, the groundwork was good. But what I don't think I would lead with, because we're finding in America that they don't care about women. They led with too much of the women's right things, and she was hoping that she would get support from her fellow women on a woman's issue. And she was talking specifically to white women who ended up overwhelmingly voted for Trump. That's what she was banking on. That's what they were banking on. But that didn't happen. That didn't happen. So I wish she hadn't done that, because based on the way that white women, I'm going to say it again, have performed an election, they cannot be trusted. And David Plouffe and all the rest of you that were on y'all made a mistake with that one, because white women can't be trusted to do the right thing. And I'm talking about those independent ones and the ones that lean kind of right. They're not going to do it. So that was a bad strategy. If they had taken that energy and put it more toward her economic plan and more toward the immigration, I think we would have seen a little bit more traction there, even though the election was stolen. I keep throwing that in. You know what I'm saying? It would have been clearly a landslide like it should have been. So that's where I'm putting the blame. I'm putting the blame on white women. I am, because they're the ones that really overwhelmingly helped her to lose. But then let's talk about Latinos. I'm going to go right here real quick because I like to find these little Latino TikTokers that tell you the real truth about their own people. It's not me talking, it's them. Take a listen.
It's been a little over 100 days since this administration took office. Until this day, I still get asked, how did Latinos, how did your community vote for him? And honestly, it is multi-layered and multifaceted. Let me tell you that I am also not one of the people that voted for him. And I say it's multi-layered, multifaceted because I think there's multiple reasons. Sure, there's a concern around misinformation and disinformation having taken advantage of our community or having people confused. I think that's one part of it. Another part of it is, frankly, racism, misogyny, the fact that many Latinos didn't want a Black and Asian woman to take office, the fact that many Latinos thought that because he is a man, that he would somehow save the economy or do a better job at the economy, when in fact she actually has a degree in economy and fully had laid out plans and told us that what would be happening as far as the tariffs are concerned. Kamala Harris did tell us what would happen, and here we are. But I also say that it's multifaceted, multi-layered, because there is machismo that exists and internalized oppression, internalized racism that exists within our community, the Latino community. There's also colorism that exists within our community. So many of us are raised and brought up to believe that darkness is a bad thing. That if you're more claro, if you're more lighter, that you will have it better or that you are better. Like many of us are socialized, whether or not even our families are aware of it, but are socialized to believe things like that, to want to be closer to whiteness, to be bought into proximity to whiteness. And a lot of people don't want to talk about that. They don't want to admit it, whatever. That is their own thing. But I am naming the things that are prevalent in our freaking community. Anti-Blackness is a major thing that exists in our community. Okay? All of this stuff contributed. But I will also say the lack of empathy for immigrants. The fact that people feel like because they're second generation or third generation that they are better because they didn't have to immigrate here. This country was stolen from indigenous people, from white people that immigrated here. Again, something that people don't seem to want to talk about or acknowledge, but it is the reality. So for people to feel like, oh, well, they're only going to take the criminal. No, you see what's happening right now. You see what's happening right now. And Latinos, so many Latinos that are now being like, oh my gosh, I didn't know it was going to happen. Oh, I regret my decision. Oh. Well, look at you now. Look at us now. Look at what's happening. Look at what's happening. If you want more of this type of content, follow for more. Comment if you understand. Comment if you understand.
Real talk. Real talk. Nobody wants to talk about this kind of stuff. Excuse me. These videos are all over TikTok, guys. I mean, not me saying it. These are Latinos saying it for themselves. Real talk. Real talk, guys. And then there's this thing about white rule voters. Let's just talk about this. With the stuff we need to be talking about, we're not talking about. We're having Donald Trump just do anything because we can't get our crap together as people. But let's listen to this thing about white rule voters. I can't exactly remember the tone, but I know there's a book about how a white rule voter thinks and how they vote, and this one is kind of interesting. So listen to this. We have problems in this country, guys. We just do.
Are white rural voters a threat to democracy?
They're the most racist, xenophobic, anti-immigrant, and anti-gay geodemographic group in the country. Second, they're the most conspiracist group. QAnon support and subscribers, election denialism, COVID denialism and scientific skepticism, Obama birtherism. Third, anti-democratic sentiments. They don't believe in an independent press, free speech. They're most likely to say the president should be able to act unilaterally without any checks from Congress or the courts or the bureaucracy. They're also the most strongly white nationalist and white Christian nationalists. And fourth, they are most likely to excuse or justify violence. So Trump comes in and says, let's just hate on cities. Let's just hate on minorities. Let's hate on immigrants. And at least they can deliver on that. And so they're not even voting in their material interest anymore.
He was just a conduit for their rage, their anger, their resentment. And that turned out to be what they wanted. And it wasn't really about the material conditions of their lives, because he didn't improve their lives, but he got more support in rural areas in 2020 than he had in 2016, despite the fact that none of their problems had gotten any better under him. All that he gave them was a way to essentially give a big middle finger to Democrats, to people who live in cities, and to the rest of the country.
They're pissed off.
They are pissed off, and they have some reason to be with both parties.
White rural rage, the threat to American democracy.
Visit Every Day is Juneteenth on Instagram.
All right, so that's a book, guys, White Rural Rage. And I've got to read that book. But those guys were telling me they have done research and whatever. So, guys, I'm telling you, our problem is deeper than we want to talk about. We want to talk about economy and the price of eggs. It's not that. And why in the world don't people recognize that that's not it? Until we have the real conversations in this country about what's going on, nothing's going to be the same. Nothing's going to change. There's no reason why we can't live in this country as people with diverse backgrounds. You can be this. I have white brothers. I have white sisters. There's no reason why we can't coexist in this country. But all this junk, there's got to be a way to get us out of this junk, because it's ruining the lives of people. It's ruining the very fabric of this country, because we don't know how to talk to each other. And I'm sorry, my white brothers and sisters, I'm going to blame you. I'm going to blame you for this. And that's why you're the one that have to fix it. You have to take the lead. You have to take the lead. That's facts. No place else around that. All right, so then, I got a little upset because here goes Van Jones talking to some black Trumpers, which I still don't understand a black Trump supporter. Never will. Just can't do it. But let's listen to what Van said. This was kind of stupid. All of them, this didn't sound right to me. I don't know. But anyway, I'm kind of prejudiced in this area when it comes to black people that vote for Trump, because I don't understand why or how you can. But that's just me being honest. But here we go.
Usually when you think about a Trump voter, you think about a white male with a red hat on. But there were millions of black voters who picked Donald Trump this time. So I came here to talk to 3 of them. And I was surprised by what I found. You weren't always a Republican.
No. Actually, I come from a family that was super Democratic. My first time voting, I voted Democrat. I voted for Joe Biden.
What about Trump appealed to you?
Am I allowed to cuss?
Yeah, you can.
I mean, part of it is he's an asshole. I like authenticity.
You voted for Obama then you voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. But 2020, you voted for Donald Trump. What made the change?
I began listening to someone. Her name is Candace Owens. And I read her book. And it just opened my eyes to maybe he's not this person that I have been led to believe that he was.
So you voted against Trump in 2016.
Yes.
But then in 2020, you voted for him?
Absolutely.
Why?
I saw how things were going during his first term, and I was pleasantly surprised, and I was pleased with what was happening. I saw the economy getting better. I saw country relations in certain countries getting better.
People, when they think about a Trump voter, they usually think about a white dude with a red hat on and a pickup truck, and y'all are not that at all. So Donald Trump's team went in, they took down Harriet Tubman's picture for a quick minute. They're trying to knock out the black museums. What does that have to do with the price of eggs, and how does that impact you?
In some ways, it's a slap in the face. In other ways, I don't care. I care more about how I'm going to take care of my children.
I don't think the average American cares about that. I know.
The average American doesn't care about that. We got some selfish people in America. Ha ha ha. You don't care? You don't care about the backs of people that you're standing on? You don't care? That's why I have a problem with black MAGA. I just do.
So I am sick and tired of seeing black people sit there and complain about something, but not taking action and steps to actually try to change things in an appropriate manner.
This man is talking about running for a third term. Now, what do you think about that?
The third term, for me, absolutely not. I think it's at the end of these 4 years, it's time to move on.
This is a prime example of him trolling people because people have said, they're like, oh, if he gets in the office, he's going to be a dictator. He's going to try to run for a third term. So he's like, okay, y'all think I'm going to do that? I'm going to.
Girl, what have you not been listening to? Everything that Trump said he was going to do in Project 2025, he is doing it. He's not trolling. If he wants to run for a third term, he's throwing that out there. Trust me, he will try something. This is some mess.
Mess with y'all and say this is to take y'all out.
I thought you loved this man because he's so authentic and he's such a truth teller.
But you need to know the difference between somebody trolling somebody, and this is a prime example of him being a troll.
In some ways I was happier, in some ways I was sadder. But I'm going to tell you right now, there is a movement in black America toward the Republican Party, and we talked to 3 people who are amazing representatives of that movement.
Amazing? I don't think so. The first guy said that he just likes an a-hole. That's amazing, Van. No. That was a farce. But anyway. All right, so now I just wanted to show you this. Kamala, she was at the Met Gala. She looks beautiful there with her husband, Doug. I'm showing a picture, guys. If you can look it up on the internet. At the Met Gala. I'm so glad she's going on with her life and just enjoying things. And she got a lot of flack for this. So what? Donald Trump plays golf every other day. He has parties at Mar-a-Lago all the time. Guests and all kinds of stuff. But nobody trolls him. Excuse me. Leave Kamala alone. Leave her alone. I'm sick of it. So sick of it. All right. That was that. I had to throw that in. All right. So let's see. I wanted to go into like Kamala finally speaks up. And she got a lot of flack for coming back. She was speaking at an event and people were mad because she was blaming Trump and this and that. She was doing a bunch of I told you so's and everybody was upset about that. I wasn't, because she did tell us. Here we go.
Working to advance America's highest ideals, we are witnessing the wholesale abandonment of those ideals. And what we are also seeing in these last 14 weeks is Americans using their voice and showing their courage. We all know President Trump and his administration and their allies are counting on the notion that fear can be contagious. They are counting on the notion that if they make some people afraid, it will have a chilling effect on others. But what they're overlooking, what they have overlooked, is that fear is not the only thing that's contagious. Courage is contagious. Americans who are speaking out to say, it is not okay to violate court orders. Not okay. Saying it is not okay to detain and disappear American citizens or anyone without due process. The courage of judges to uphold the rule of law in the face of those who would jail them. of universities that are defying unconstitutional demands that threaten the pursuit of truth and academic independence. We are living in a moment when the checks and balances upon which we have historically relied have begun to buckle. And we here know that when the checks and balances ultimately collapse, if Congress fails to do its part, or if the courts fail to do their part, or if both do their part, but the president defies them anyway, well, friends, that is called a constitutional crisis. And that is a crisis that will eventually impact everyone. Because it would mean that the rules that protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, that ensure each of us has a say about how our government works, will no longer matter. And if that happens, the one check, the one balance, the one power that must not fail is the voice of the people.
Everything that she said is true. Everything that Kamala said has come true. She was trying to warn us all, and people are like, why is she even talking? Because she can. She invested a lot into that campaign, and I think that she deserves every bit of it. Every bit of it. Yes. So this is the things that we need to know about Kamala, and I want you to remember it. And you know, the only person that I've seen who's not afraid to stand up to Donald Trump, besides my girl Jasmine Crockett, I think she'd do it, is Kamala Harris. Do y'all remember how she tore him up in debate and how he refused to do a second one? He can't handle a strong black woman. And Kamala told us she is used to handling people with his personality. And I'm telling you, she would have torn him up. So we cannot discount everything that she has given us. She's more qualified than just about anybody you can put as far as a presidential candidate. She's more qualified. But Americans, y'all have got to lose this thing about a woman being president or in office, because she can do it. She can do it. And don't discount her. She's coming up like maybe 4th or 5th in the slate of people they want for 2028. She should be number 1. I don't think Gavin Newsom is ready. I don't think Shapiro is ready. I don't think any of those people can beat down, can win the House and the Senate and the executive office back. Kamala can. We're going to prove this thing, but it's going to take some work on everybody's part to get this done. It just is. So let's go to the debate, just to jog your memory, so you can remember just how awesome Kamala's campaign was and how she devoured Donald Trump in debate. Here we go.
We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases.
My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to startup small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans. I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so, that would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border?
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again.
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is, under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military.
You know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounced back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you. I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states. They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy.
But let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on...
Well, there you go, guys. Y'all look at that performance. Don't talk to me about Kamala not being ready for president. She's very ready. She showed us in 3 months what she can do. Give her a little bit more time, she'll take that thing to the bank. So y'all quit discounting Kamala. I want to show y'all one more. Do you remember this big rally in Houston? Here we go.
I thank you all so very much. And I thank you. And I thank my friends for reminding us of exactly what we are fighting for in this campaign. We are fighting for freedom. And to Andrea and everyone here tonight whose lives have been impacted by these Trump abortion bans in this moment, I thank you for sharing your stories and for your courage. It is an honor to be here with so many leaders and all of you who have taken the time out of your busy lives to be here this evening so we can, as a community of people, as people who love our country, be clear, sound strong, and stand in favor of the freedom of every woman to make decisions about
Did y'all see that? Those were huge rallies. How could she have lost? How could she have lost? I still don't get it. I still don't get it. All right, so that's my case on Kamala. That's my case, guys. So all of you pundits that want to be ragging on the Democratic Party and ragging on Kamala Harris, stop it. Stop it. Jake Tapper, I know you got a book coming out about how Joe Biden did all this stuff, you know. You've talked to Joe several times. Is Joe cognizant to you? I think he's pretty much in his mind. Y'all trying to make it sound like the guy just has dementia. He doesn't have anything. He's older. That's it. He's older. Wow. So I want to go now to this CNN. Two of the CNN anchors, they go to different towns and they talk to different people. And this particular two groups of people, they talk about how facts don't change minds in a certain sector of people in the electorate. Let's listen in on this conversation and tell me what your thoughts are. Here we go.
The podcast, I guess, is my naive attempt at trying to have people who might be watching our stories who have no sympathy for the people we interview and view them, frankly, probably as stupid or extremists or dangerous, to get to a point where maybe they could be empathetic. So that's why I've done this. That's why you're stuck here now.
What is the craziest single claim anyone has ever said to you?
That when Biden was in the White House, that he wasn't really there, that in fact he was actually dead. now that I'm hearing this back, kernel of truth in every serious note. Somebody said to me that that he wasn't actually there, that it was a green screen, that the White House was empty, that the Oval Office media, everything you're seeing, was green screen in Hollywood. So that one was definitely out there. The thing I get a lot, question that always normally comes from the left online, is why are you humanizing this person?
Yeah.
Why are you humanizing this human being?
I know. No, one of the QAnon anonymous guys made a very good point. Like, oh, wow, it's quite politically inconvenient that your opponent is a human being.
Right? But I find it so just really annoying.
I'm right there with you, dude. But also, it's like, it's infuriating. Because one, it's wrong, obviously, top-line level. Like, we're all human beings. Dehumanization is bad. But two, it doesn't work. You lost. Look at the world.
Yes.
This, like, ignore it and it goes away idea has completely failed.
Yeah.
The no platforming concept has completely failed. It is totally bankrupt.
Well, one to your point, the platforming argument's just bogus because all this stuff is happening anyway.
How has reporting on misinformation changed you?
How has it changed me?
Yeah. Are you different than who you used to be?
How has it changed you?
Not fair. You have to answer it first this time.
I don't. Well, I'll put it this way. I've always been most interested in misinformation from a phenomena point of view. Mm-hmm. How it spreads, why people believe it, how people are making money off it. That's how I've approached it, right? And that's why I've wanted to talk to people. I think so many of my colleagues in this space, misinformation reporters, want to be real reporters. They want to correct the record.
Oh, I see.
Right? Like it upsets them. It makes them angry that people believe stuff that is false. And so they will try to do the job of a regular reporter, which is do the facts. I've found that to do my job effectively, if I want to have a constructive conversation with most of my interviewees, I just have to accept that they don't believe the 2020 election was fair. Mm-hmm. I have to accept that sometimes they think the COVID vaccine is actually a microchip going in under your skin to track us.
Yeah.
And if I get hung up on that, like if I say, well, no, you're wrong, and here's why, and I'm going to convince you now, I'm going to change your mind, then I'm not... That's the end of the conversation.
Well, I don't know about that. First of all, nobody said that. Why are you humanizing this person? What we are saying from the left is, why are you normalizing the Donald Trump campaign? It is not normal. It is not normal. Yes, he's a human, so you got that wrong, buddy. And to sit and listen to all this disinformation and kind of just placate and not even address it, what are you supposed to do? Sit there and talk about something as if it is so? If someone tells me a lie, I'm going to say, that's not the truth. But he says he can't do that. That's not the method to do. So what do you do? He really didn't answer that question. So I don't know if that helped the situation at all, but I wanted you to hear those two guys work with people who totally have this crazy, false information, and you can't make people understand the truth. What do you do? They have a huge job before them. Yeah. So there you go with that. Now, this next exchange was one with Abby Phillip when they were trying to get Scott Jennings and some of the guys on the panel that from the right to admit about the Constitution, whether or not Donald Trump should follow the Constitution. And they kept skirting the issue. If these people should get due process, nobody would answer the question. I don't understand that. Either you're for the Constitution or you're not. Charles Blow really gets Scott Jennings with his own words. And let's listen to this exchange. And here we go.
Hands, they pledge to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. But Donald Trump is apparently keeping his options open.
Don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me, and they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said.
The exchange was over deportations and due process, which several judges have ruled Trump's actions are indeed unconstitutional. But this is a notable moment in politics, since for the right, for decades, they have made America's document the centerpiece of its governing and moral philosophy.
This is a pocket copy of the Constitution and Declaration of Independence. I've spent 40 years of my life studying this.
Because I believe in this document written by the hands of wise men raised up by God to that very purpose.
The Constitution starts with the three most important words outside the Bible: we the people.
Didn't you take an oath to this, the Constitution of the United States? Doesn't this supersede everything else?
Our Constitution is the supreme law of the land.
Every decision that I make starts with asking the questions, is this constitutional?
This is not a prop, and I don't carry it as a prop.
Joining us in our fifth seat at the table is attorney Dante Mills. He is a law professor at Temple University. Dante, I don't think it requires a law degree to understand what the Constitution says. Is it just me? It seems like that's kind of a cop-out for just the plain text, which actually, if you're a conservative, that is how they read the document.
The simple answer should be, I will follow the Constitution, especially if you're the president of the United States. But I want to have a logical conversation. And there's a quote that Donald Trump said. He said, I was elected to get them the hell out of here, and the courts are holding me back from doing so. That shows his rationale. He thinks that the courts are acting against him, but the court's job is not to advance or to fight against the presidential policy. It's to make sure that they interpret these laws with fairness. And the one thing the courts do that I think President Trump is missing here, the courts determine or look at, what if you're wrong? What if they're not a criminal? What if they're not a gang member? What if they're not an immigrant? They're an American citizen, and you put them in jail anyway, and all of that has happened. The impact of that far outweighs the time it would take to just have a hearing. And that's what due process is.
So here's the deal. We've let 20 million something people into the country illegally. And now what a lot of folks want to do is use the court system to try to stop
as much as possible, the rapid deportation of illegal aliens from the country. What the president said in the interview was very clear. He was unsure on these deportation cases because of the unusual circumstances, but he was going to defer to his brilliant lawyers and said, quote, "We are going to follow what the Supreme Court says." There is no outrage here that's worth it. But we have been invaded by millions upon millions of people, and he was elected to get them out. He was elected to get them out. And what some people are proposing is a backlog system that will never allow us to go to get them out.
You're describing illegal immigration, which has been around for a long time as an invasion, which is fine for you if you want to do that. But why is that unusual that there's a process to go through to deport people? I mean, that's actually just how the system works.
Do you know how long it takes for this process, this paperwork to get people out? The guy that we've all been weeping and gnashing teeth over, the guy we sent to El Salvador, was in the country 14 years illegally.
But what about what
We've got
Dante's-
millions of people who have gamed this system, and now we're going to game
Either
it
you
some more.
believe in the Constitution or you don't.
I believe in the sovereignty of the United States, or you don't.
But do you believe in the Constitution?
I believe in the sovereignty of the United
So you
States,
don't
and I
believe
believe
in the Constitution.
we've
And
been
you don't
invaded.
believe that Donald
Can I
Trump
just ask a
should
question?
abide by the Constitution?
Just a serious question.
Of course I do.
Do you
And of course I believe.
Do you believe that he does?
And I believe that he will follow, just as he said, what the Supreme Court says. But the policy debate is worth
From the
having.
very beginning,
millions
of Trump,
upon millions of
when
people are
Trump
here, and they will not
campaigning,
leave, and he has to get them
always
out.
I agree with you with
believed
that, Scott.
in executive
Hold on a
overreach.
second, Dante. Let me just let her
Always. From the very beginning, from 2016, he has believed in executive overreach. We've all seen that. He said it. It was clear. Are you saying now that you don't believe that he believes in executive overreach?
I believe that he believes his mandate from the American people is to solve illegal immigration. And I would ask you the same question in reverse. Did Joe Biden, when he said he would faithfully uphold and execute the laws of this land, not mean it when he decided to let millions upon millions of people into the country? Because he did not execute the laws.
I thought that you were going to squirm out of that question.
I'm not squirming.
Yes, you did. And that's why I prepared for it, because I want to read you something. At the core of Trump's candidacy is a call for greater executive authority with willful disregard for the constitutional limits placed on our chief executive. Trump especially promises to force individual companies to do things he wants them to do, or else he promises punishment to those who displease him, which appeals to the miserable man at the airport bar. Do you recognize that?
Yeah, I wrote it.
Exactly.
And here's
so
the deal.
What, he hasn't changed, so what has changed about you?
And here's the difference between then and now. This country has been invaded. The president was elected
So
to
you
end the
changed your
invasion.
opinion on the Constitution?
My opinion is the president needs to pull every lever he can to solve illegal
So
immigration.
you've answered
crisis.
that question by saying
here's
that
the
you don't mind him
question.
being
Do you
unconstitutional.
believe that every immigrant here is the same? You can't believe that because
Yes.
they're not. They're not.
I do. I
There's
believe-
some
I
good,
believe
there's
every-
some bad. There's some criminal,
I
they're
believe,
not.
I believe
And how
everybody
do you-
who's here illegally
hear
is
this
here
out.
illegally.
How do
Not
you
all are
differentiate?
violent, but all are here
But
illegally.
how do you differentiate if nobody gets a hearing, if you don't have due process?
I-
How do you distinguish one from the other?
Well,
so what you're saying is every person that's here in this country is a criminal, is a gang member,
No.
should be thrown in jail.
Every person who's
That's
here
what's
illegally,
happening.
every person who is here illegally is in fact a criminal. Some of them do come here and commit violent crimes
Some of
and
them, but
still
how do you
aren't
differentiate
deported.
if you don't have a
Well,
process?
some have records and some don't.
But they
I'm
still
here to
have
break the news.
constitutional rights.
They're all going
Hold on a
away.
second.
Still have constitutional
I want to make
rights.
sure that we're not straying from the point of this conversation, which is a question about due process rights. And so I'll just ask really quickly, do you believe that undocumented immigrants have to have due process rights, that that's constitutionally what they are entitled to?
I'm unsure of what that means in the context of some of the cases that we've been dealing with in the news lately, because I've been looking at these people who have been here for 14 years, have been through numerous immigration.
All right, well,
I have a question about what does that mean?
All right. Well,
Yes,
let
I
me-
agree,
let me-
but what does it mean?
Let me bring the Supreme Court into this since you brought them up. This is what two different Supreme Court justices have said about this issue in the past.
If you
Oh, well, there you go. A conversation on the Constitution, and he won't say the Constitution is valid. What does that mean, guys? The Constitution says any person, it doesn't say citizen, it's due process. Person. But according to Scott Jennings, the president has executive reach to do whatever he wants, regardless of what the Constitution says. But he'll never say that straight. But that's what's happening. That is what's happening, guys. So this little podcast today, I know I was on my rage a little bit because I'm just getting so upset about how we're being sold a bill of goods about so many different issues, and it's only a small group of people that's running this. And we got to figure out a way to get control of this country, find out how we can find common interests, like Kamala said, and please get us out of this Trump administration game. I can't take it. It's too much. It's too much for anyone. So I'll continue to pray for this country, and I'll continue to fight where I need to fight, and I will continue to inform where I need to inform. But please understand that things are not good right now, guys. They're not good. They're not good. And if anything, you need to stay abreast of what's going on in this country. Okay? So that's my podcast for tonight. And thank you so much for joining me. I want you to be tell you about another podcast that I'm coming up. I have my very first special guest. We're going to be talking about the black hair industry. And we've got some great questions and some great topics on that. And hopefully you'll be able to join me for that. That's coming up here. Is it next week? I think it's next week, but I will most definitely let you know about it when it's coming up. All right? So everyone, have a wonderful day. And thank you so much for joining me for Let's Talk with Carl E. Long for the podcast. Until we meet again. Bye now.